This is us departing Carlingford, and I'd like to show you something. There's a little gap over there. Don't think that's the way in. It's not. If you look at where we're going out now, you can turn around and see there's port and starboard beacons on both sides. Look for the beacons if you're a little bit confused, but don't go in that little break in the wall. That probably won't end good for you. Well, again, we've got easterlies on the forecast. So once we've got out, we've got a little bit of motoring into it to do, and then we should hopefully be able to get a bit of a sail up to the next port. We've decided on moving up to Ardglass. Well, there's Carlingford Marina bye-byes, and there's Carlingford in the distance over there. It's a lovely town and it's well worth the visit, and it's very pleasant in its nature. We, however, still got our plans to try and get ourselves to Scotland at some point, so we need to make our way up north at every opportunity we get. We're going to be pushing a little bit of current as we go out the river, out the loch, and a little bit of current's going to be about half a knot, I should imagine, maybe get up to a knot in the narrow areas. As you can see, we've got 10 knots of wind on the nose at the moment, and a ship up the backside. It's coming along. It'll catch us up fairly soon, I'm sure. I'll have to steer clear, and it'll be by the shallow bits when I'm doing so. But here he comes, and he's pushing a big wave, and he gives me a good berth, so he's a very good lad. We like him. This ship's come down from the depths of the loch, so I don't know what's down there, but obviously another busy port, I should imagine. And it's a beast as it passes, but funny enough, it makes no bow wave whatsoever, and we just slip along lovely past the lighthouse and all the buoyage to keep us out the shallows until we get to the deep water. When we get there, we turn to port. We've got a nice breeze, 12 knots on the starboard bow, and that gives us a bit of a close reach, and we're away, sailing away. Well, the wind at this point being quite light, I'd have said a force 2 to 3, and the sails are full. We've just got a small amount of heel on, but she's found a little bit of a groove and she's quite happy. She seems like she'll happily sit like this all day, and she's ploughing along at what I would feel is a good pace. We're making 5 over the ground, and that might be because we've got a little bit of favourable tide with us now. We've just started the ebb, so that's both us and the ebb going this way past this big bay here on the side, Dundrum Bay, and our heading hopefully today is a little port called Ardglass here. Well, the air's up and down a little. I mean, we've got around the 10 knots at the moment, and we're pushing a little bit of that ourselves. We're doing 3.5 over the ground, which is quite decent in light airs for me, but because we've got a little bit of tide, we're still making over 4 knots. So 3.5 slipping along through the water. Dead happy. We should get to where we're going. We've got 6 hours of tide to run with us, so that's plenty to take the distance. So let's see what happens. Sit back and enjoy the sail. I'm tweaking already. And it does pay off when you pay attention to the sails. The droopy telltale there. Bring him back into place, and I'll see if it makes any difference to our pace over the ground. And let's hopefully it does. And of course, when I go back down below to check, it has picked us up a little bit. Half a knot we've added to our speed, which is good. And to confirm it, the speed through the water's picked up to 4 knots as well. Well, I'm quite happy with that, 4 knots out of 10 knots of wind. Especially when you look at the sea conditions, there's hardly any wind on it at all. It's as smooth as it can probably be out here, I should imagine. And Swallow's just slipping along, making a nice little passage up the coast, taking us north, where we actually want to get to. We're passing a port at the moment called Kinkeel. It's a fisherman's port. But my friend John, he went in there and he turned around and said he had a blinding time with the fishermen. He said they were the friendliest guys he could have ever met. They got very drunk together apparently. Well, we sailed up to the bay, and as we got towards the bay, the wind started easing off a little bit. And unfortunately, when we got into the bay itself, the wind did ease off. It went down to 5.7 knots, and we're generating most of that, doing 4.6 through the water. Engine's back on, and I hope it's not going to stay like this, because it was planned as a good sail. Well, as luck would have it, halfway through the bay we get just about enough wind to get going again. So we can turn the donkey off and enjoy the peace and quiet once again as she just slips along in extremely light airs. There don't seem to be very many other boats out, although there is one boat that's been shadowing me. She's back there somewhere, but you can't see her because she's a little dot. And that's into the bay with a bit of mist. There's a bit of weather knocking around as well, but we seem to be missing it all. So hopefully we're going to keep our fingers crossed that it stays dry. Even if it stays at this pace and we're just creeping along, it's beautiful. So let's see just how well she's performing at the moment then in these light airs. What kind of speed are we doing? Just over 4 over the ground. That's not too bad. In 8.5 knots of wind, and we're doing 3.74 through the water. That's pretty good then. That's nearly 4 knots out of 8 knots of wind. Half of it we're using. I think that's quite fantastic. I can see on the AIS there's quite a few boats making their way to Ardglass as well, so I hope there's plenty of moorings there when we get there, because by the looks of this I'll probably be last. It's thirsty work this, trying to stay ahead of the wind, but we're moving quite well now. The pace is up over 4.5 knots continuously, so panad time. And a very peaceful cup of tea this looks like it's going to be. There's hardly a sound outside, the air's that light. But we've got half an hour at our current rate to get ourselves towards the lighthouse, which is the end of the bay. We're averaging 4.5 over, 4.5 to 5 knots over the ground at the moment. We've still got 10 knots of wind. There's still lobster pots to look out for, so you've really got to be on your toes at all times. And we're still doing very well, and here's the lighthouse coming up on our port side, so that's the end of the bay. So a few miles down the way here and Ardglass will appear. It's where the land sticks out ahead of us. Can you see that land sticking out? That furthest piece you can see Ardglass is just around the corner there. And I've just realised Swallow is really picking up her pace at the moment. She's doing very well. She's really doing well considering this light airs. And I worked out why, because when I followed the bubbles backwards and I looked behind me, there was a rain cloud chasing us down. So I thought, she don't want to get wet, so she's running away from that rain which is on the water. She's screaming along to stay away from that rain. We haven't got much more wind, but we've got a lot more speed at the moment, and we're doing over 5 knots over the ground. And I know there'll be a little bit of lift with us, but we're doing near 5 knots through the water according to the log, and I think the log's pretty good. And we're just about to pass the lighthouse now. Isn't she a beautiful lighthouse? We all love lighthouses, but not quite as much as we love sailing, especially when the sailing's actually taking place when there's virtually no wind left. And the wind's dropping down again a little bit, and we're still going, and we've left the rain clouds behind. So it looks like we might make Ardglass in a dry sail, which is very nice. I wonder if Lisa's enjoying the sail at the moment. She's sitting inside, she is. I'll ask her, I think. I'll tap on the window and I'll say, "Are you enjoying the sail, Lisa?" I've tapped on the window, but she's ignoring me. She's reading a book. I thought I was going to get the fingers then, but I didn't. Yeah, you know, she loves me really. Cloud's still chasing us, but we ain't got that far to go, because that mushroomy tank thing that you can see, that's by Ardglass Golf Club, so it means we're virtually there. That's the first thing you'll spot to give you some indication that you're in the right place, so you know it's just around the next headland. Swallow still seems to be in a rush to get there now. She definitely wants to keep us dry and herself dry. She's pounding away to get us there, which is good because we haven't got much more wind. But what we have got, we're squeezing every little bit out of, and it's giving us good drive. Credit where it's due, 6 knots of wind, 3 knots over the ground, 50% of the performance. Pretty damn good that, and there's 3.5 knots in total, which is the half a knot of the tide. And that's it, that's the entrance to Ardglass just there, or just there in the blurry spot. Well, we've put the sails away to motor in here. I think it's quite a tight entrance, although that you can see where you're going quite clearly. There's a lot of nasty looking rocks on the shore though, but you can see the breakwater, it's definitely man-made, and you've got to go round the end of it. There's a lot of wildlife here as well, seals and the likes. As you first approach the buoyage, there's only a couple of buoys. The red and the green look like they're the wrong way round. They're not. There's a cardinal, and you go round the cardinal, and then around the red, and then as you come round, the green and red will come the right way round, which is the gateway for you to get in. It looks a bit confusing the first time, but it's not. Then you'll see another red and another green, and they're just sort of staggered a little bit. Quite often the bigger boats more straight ahead, and the little boats, they'll fit you in wherever they can. And the water's quite low at the moment, so the rocks come up. You can see them on your port side, but there seems to always be enough water to get round them, especially in our size boats, where you might struggle in a bigger boat, but I think there is depth, so you can do it. You've just got to stay in where the other ones are. Now here I mess up. I think I'm being told I've got to go down Marina to the end, and I'm not. I'm being told I've got to turn to port just here. That doesn't help me a lot. This is me saying, what, this is the one I'm supposed to go in? I've got to do a 50-point turn to get in there now. Lisa thinks it's funny and she's having a bit of a laugh on the bow. Only because the woman who's bringing us in is a female dockmaster, and you don't get many of them, and I don't know why. But women then have a giggle at when we're messing it up. So I'm sitting here doing that forward, reverse, forward, reverse, forward, reverse, rather than use my bow thruster to bring the boat round, just so you know you can. And she's moving on the spot, just twirling to port there, nice and slow. But she's coming round. The boat doesn't go forwards, doesn't go backwards, and the helm doesn't move. The helm stays pinned over on me at the moment, so the helm's right over on starboard, which means the rudder's on port. And that's what turns the boat. It's the thrust on the rudder each time. If you haven't got thrust on the rudder like the Album Vega, then you can't actually do this. But if you have, you can do it. Here's me thinking I'm set, and I've not. Still got a bit further to go. And there's loads and loads of people to watch you make a mistake in this place. So I'm going to try and not make a mistake as we go in. Still got a little bit more turning to go, but there's no panic because there's very little wind in here. Only 5 to 10 knots. And it doesn't show on the water even. The water even looks like it's got less than that on it. So we should be able to get in. And I can't feel any current whatsoever. So Lisa's waiting patiently for me, and the dockmaster's waiting patiently for me. But I'm taking my time, and I'm going to get in without bonking anything. Or at least I hope I am. It certainly would have been a lot easier if she was standing there pointing at that one in the first place, rather than overshooting it. And we're coming in nicely now. And the first line's ashore, and all we got to do is get the second one ashore. Lisa just wants to get ashore herself. She can't wait. There she goes. She's landed. And I've stopped the boat. And there's no panic. We're there. Perfect. Well, welcome to Ardglass. I hope you've enjoyed the trip. Thanks very much, as usual, for watching. Hey, Swallows pulled the blinder today. That light air's performance. I see many other boats motoring while she still sailed. Bon voyage!